Hi and welcome. Today I have a piece for my small art ring journal, and I'm starting with the piece that's Bristol smooth paper that's 3.5 by 5 inches. I'm giving it a base coat of distress ink just because I'm not particularly fond of a white background, but that's just me. So you do you. And I make sure that's dry. We're not embossing or anything, so it doesn't have to be perfectly dry. And I'm using a Tim Holtz stencil. I don't use this one very often, and I'm not sure why. It's not one of my favorites, but I do like it. So it's kind of like a plaid, and it'd be great for like Father's Day stuff and everything like that, but that's not what I'm doing today. And I'm putting some distress ink through it, and I'm using pumice stone, so it's like a grayish color. And when that is done, I'm gonna use the transparent Crackle again. Now, after having done it, I might not use this stencil, and I'll tell you why. Because I prefer, when I'm using a Crackle, for you to be able to see a lot of the crackle. And in the bigger square areas where I'm putting ink, you can see it, but in the not bigger square areas, it's hard to find any of the crackle. So it doesn't really show a whole lot of the crackle, but you do get some of it. Now I want it edge to edge, and that's one of the reasons I picked this stencil, was because you can flip it over and it's got a repeating pattern that you can use. I mean, if it's floral, that's hard to do, but in this particular case you can do that. So I've cleaned off my stencil, and now I am going to add the translucent Crackle texture paste. And just like the regular translucent, it goes on like you're spreading yogurt. Very smooth, goes on very light and easy. And I have found if you put on too much, it's not more crackle, it's less crackle. So, I mean, you want to have enough to crackle, but um, just skimming it off the stencil so that it's not like built up and piled in some places is good. And that goes immediately into a tub of water, and I have set it aside, and now it's dry. And I'm not adding a whole lot of color after that, but I am adding some. And so the first one I'm adding is Seedless Preserves Oxide. Um, and maybe Oxide because that's the only thing I have in Seedless Preserves is just an oxide pad. So I'm giving a pretty heavy splatter with some very large splats in some areas. You could even do things like rings or anything, but it's hard to do that when you have a texture paste already down, so just be aware of that. And now I am doing some frayed burlap around the edges. I did dry that. I just had a lot going on that day, so I would do something and walk away, do something else, and come back when it was dry. That's why you probably see the lighting change a whole lot in this video because it's been a while. So I did the edges in frayed burlap, and now I'm giving it a frayed burlap splatter just to kind of add another level of interest. You definitely don't see it as well as the seedless preserves, but you do see it. I'm going to add this little wafer or waffle paper. I don't know what else really to call it. I've cut it on my Cricut and then just kind of taken bits and pieces of it. And so I'm taking a stamp, and I wanted one with text. And I don't really want to read it, but I liked this stamp because it has two different size fonts, and so it kind of stands out differently. And I don't really want you to read it. I just want you to tell that there's some interesting font work there. I'm taking some frayed burlap and spraying the waffle paper and then just kind of knocking it back. Now this pink piece I'm using, often I just punch the hole that is like where they want you to put some kind of grommet or eyelet or something. And so, but I thought I would try actually adding some sort of hardware there. And I do try to do that, but my hole punch is too large for the what is it that the closed one, is it a grommet or is it a no grommet's got a hole in it. Anyways, eyelet I'm gonna call it, and it does not stay in place, so I end up just gluing it on, but which works fine because I really didn't care how it was affixed. It would have been fine for me if it was like a fake one and was intended to glue on. That would have been fine. But it does not stay, so I just glue it in place, and that worked out fine. I only do it on the top because the bottom's going to be covered up anyways. Now I'm adding a little bit of shading to the waffle paper. I kind of just did some vintage photo. I'm going to do some walnut stain because that vintage photo just was not dark enough. And then I actually will do a little bit of splatter on top of it just to give it a little bit of variation. Even though the text gives it quite a bit of variation, I just wanted a little more. And so I'm going to do a little splatter. And obviously I didn't get my brush wet at all beforehand. because it was not splattering. But as soon as I add some water, I get some splatter. And with something like this, just dabbing it in some places, it works just as well. I'm going to start gluing some collage items down. I think most everything is, well, not everything is digital, but the 37 placard is digital. This little circle is punched from a large ledger printable. I love using the ledger pages, even just circles of it. I just think it's really cool. This is floral from a digital download, and I am going to elevate it just a tad so that it stands out from everything else and doesn't look so flat. So now with this flower, we've gone from looking kind of manly to not looking manly. I love this flower with the plaid. I think it looks great. And you got to hold it in place a little bit when you're gluing to texture paste. Just seems like it, for me anyways. So because it is basically a round item, I am just taking some scrap I have of cardstock, lightweight cardstock, and I'm going to punch 3 of them and layer 3 underneath. Doesn't matter if it's not going to the edges. It's perfectly fine. Now in the final piece, you'll notice that in the final pictures, I'm sorry, you'll notice that I added another piece of digital ephemera above the flower, below the 37, or like in between the flower and the 37. Kind of cuts a little bit off of the 37, but I just felt like there was too much of the 37 showing, and maybe I did a little too much. Maybe I should have lowered it a bit, but it is what it is. And I plan to use this little report card, little digital item, but it just was too long and you couldn't read it enough to know what. I don't care if you have to read the whole thing, but enough to where you know what it's going to say. So I'm looking through my stash there, looking for a replacement piece. That's why I think it's really a good thing to have a lot of options at the ready, so you can just quickly choose something and keep going. Sometimes not so quickly choose something. I usually go through and pick out 2 or 3 different items and audition them and see which one I want to use. That one right there is not going to go down there, but I do use it above the flower. That's the one I use above the flower. I stamp a little circle from, not sure if it's from, I think it's from Eccentric. And I end up using this number stamp. It's actually a sticker. And the sticker comes with a white edge, so I cut off the white edge. And I sometimes add vintage photo to the edges, but honestly, it does not really do any good because it is like I wouldn't say it's a vinyl sticker, but it's got a plastic coating on it. So the any ink you put on is just going to rub right off. And it already looks distressed, so it looks fine as it is. So I'm going to add a sentiment, and it's from the sticker book Small Talk, and it's going to be your beautiful self. That's going to go down underneath the numbers, and I might add another color around the edge because the one I'm looking at now looks darker around the edge. I'll have to wait and see. But, so that might be coming up. And also, I got final pictures coming up. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I invite you to do that. And if you like this piece, give me a thumbs up. And I'd appreciate that too. And yes, see here I'm adding some walnut stain around the edges. I thought I did. And well, either way, I hope you have a awesome day, and I got final pictures coming up, so stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.